I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the City of Needles County City Council, Needles Park Utility Authority, for Tuesday, August 10th. We're going to go into an executive session. We need to call to order and take the roll.
Councilmember Campbell.
Here.
Terrell.
Here.
Merritt.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Patrick.
Here.
Belt.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Any public comments pertaining to executive session items? There's two items. The first one will be a public employee evaluation, performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, employees of the city manager. And the next one is a council item. It's a conference with legal counsel regarding a pending anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1 and/or 2 and/or 3 and/or 4 and one matter workers' compensation claim number CJP 0361334NL. With that, we'll go into executive session. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the regular meeting of the City Council and Needles Public Utility for the City of Needles, California, Tuesday, August 10th. We had an executive session where the city attorney report out on the executive session. John, now you're muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, the council met in closed session. Item A was public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The employee title was city manager. There was no reportable action on that item. Item B was conference with legal counsel regarding pending anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1 and/or 2 and/or 3, one matter workers' compensation claim number CJP 0361334NL. There was no reportable action taken on that item, and that concludes the report out from closed session.
Thank you. While taking the roll call, if you could stand for the invocation, stay up for the pledge of allegiance. Lord, thank you for letting us all get together. It's good to see a big crowd here to help us continue to move the city forward. I ask that you please help us keep you in the forefront of our minds and help us keep the city moving forward. What's best for the city. I'd also like to ask that you put your hand on the two families of our community that are hurting, the Harris family and the Smith family, for their losses. Please be with us. And everyone, we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in saluting our glorious flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any approval of the agenda?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that. I'll second that.
We have a motion to second, call for the vote.
Oh. 5 ayes. Councilmember Campbell.
Yes.
Terrell.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Patrick.
Aye.
Belt. Yes, thank you.
Any conflicts of interest? I believe.
I have conflicts of interest in item on
12.
item 12.
Any other conflicts of interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to correspondence. Any correspondence?
No, Your Honor.
All right. As a courtesy to those in attendance, we'd ask that cell phones be turned off or set to a silent mode. Thank you. Public appearance. Persons wishing to address the city council as subjects other than those scheduled are requested to do so at this time. You can call by the mail. Please announce your name and address for the record. In order to conduct a timely meeting, a 3-minute time limit per person has been established by Municipal Code Section 2-18. Amendments to the California Government Code Section 54950 prohibits the city council from taking action on a specific item until it appears on the agenda. Come on up here, young lady.
Citizen.
Hi.
Hi.
I am Sarah Johnson, and I'm coming here for pennies for the playground so we can have a better playground. If anybody wants one in their business, we have a couple more left. We would like if you can help us. So if you're just a resident that lives here, you can have a better playground for someone that's visiting. We would like if people will participate and help us in donations so we can have a better playground. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with the business.
Got money in it now?
He's your daughter?
Of course. Hi, Brett.
Good evening, Joe Johnson, 1320 Santa Fe Circle. I have some longtime residents I was talking to that are concerned over the lack of understanding what the city's goal is and what their long-term goal is with these dispensaries. Originally, we understood that the dispensaries were going to be here to help with infrastructure, pave the roads like we're doing, and that we needed a certain amount to be able to get the tax revenue to do that. Now we're moving into possibly approving 5 new ones, putting them in different locations. People are trying to figure out how many do we need in needles for the city this size. I understand that at the last meeting I was at, they were trying to people were saying, well, we can put as many as the city will support, and if those die off, those die off. So some people are confused as to the city's long-term goal, what the city thinks it needs, what the city believes it can support, and how much we need to do this infrastructure project. We do have the roads being done by the ones that are here, but if there was some kind of long-term goal that maybe some of these long-term citizens knew that, you know, we're going to permit 25 of them in the city, we're going to permit 30 of them, or vice versa, or we feel that 10 of them would be suitable for the city for what we need and what can survive. I know a lot of them are concerned and scared that they're seeing more and more and more for this little town. And now they're seeing them pop up in different areas that they don't feel it's appropriate. So I don't know if there's a plan or a 5-year plan or what the city believes that they're doing, where the city believes that it'll be too much or not appropriate. So if I don't think there's a press release or anything specific, but if there was a general idea of what was happening with all these dispensaries and what the city feels is appropriate and how many the city feels that they need to approve, it might squash some of these fears. Some of these long-term residents are concerned that they're losing their town, and some of them actually expressed concern about moving across river. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff Sievers, 3610 Riverview Terrace. Hey, I've got a question. I came here for 2 things, and one of them ended up being on the agenda today, so I'm going to wait until that comes up. But another one is, I've sent numerous emails to our code enforcement officer about problems up, and you can call it North of Needles, you can call it whatever you want. It's city limits, and there's a problem with one particular person taking advantage of not only BLM land, but of the junk that he's got up there. And to get no response from the city, I mean, what do I have to do? Because unfortunately, it's going down a road where it's going to turn legal, and I shouldn't have to do that. I've sent numerous emails and people are not responding. So who do I need to turn to? It's, you know, if I take my junk and I put it on BLM property, is that still my junk, or is that BLM property or BLM stuff to manage? And it's, something's got to give. If you don't have a code enforcement officer, we have plenty of, I mean, like this gentleman just said, there's plenty of dispensaries, you know, and I have no problem with those, but there's got to be enough money to get a code enforcement officer, you know, permit officer, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to hold off on the permit stuff because the permit thing's an issue up there too. But, and I think it's the same person over and over and over, and we're not holding people accountable. Something has to give, because like the gentleman said, I wish I would have bought 100 yards on the other side of the water and not had any of these problems. I've spent plenty of money trying to support this city, and something's got to give. So I would expect an email back. If not, then I'll make sure that the email gets answered and it'll be by an attorney.
Thank you. Any more public appearance? All right. We'll go into a presentation. The first one is Dennis Callaway on his retirement after 27 years of service to the community. Come up, Dennis.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Dennis Callaway has been a fixture in this community in serving the public. Dennis, like everybody, or like most people, started off as a night waterman at the golf course on part-time. And in his most recent position, he was the manager of the superintendent of the golf course, of parks maintenance, buildings and grounds. Dennis was one of those people that when you needed to get something done, Dennis was the first one there. I've only had the opportunity to know him for 8 years, but I've enjoyed every bit of it. And if you'll come around behind Dennis, the mayor has a plaque for you.
All right,
The
man.
plaque says Dennis Callaway, Golf Course Superintendent, Ground Supervisor. Your dedication and energy to the city and its residents over the years has been unmatched, and we thank you. Enjoy your retirement. September of 1994 to August 2021.
All right. Thank you.
We even spelled it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
27 years.
All right,
Dave Needles retired.
cool.
You might need that when you go outside.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Just thank you. I appreciate everything and, you know. I'm just, yeah, I'm just enjoying myself, you know, fixing my house.
That was unusual.
Stays up, yeah.
Thank you, Dennis.
Can we do this?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Good luck, Dennis.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
I have something I'd like to say.
Can you give it just a minute? I need to go back to public comments for just a minute. Pam, are you on there? Pam, you're muted if you're here still.
Can you hear me? Yes,
Yes,
I'm here.
okay.
Can you hear me?
Pam's gonna- There's an update on the visitor center on behalf of the chamber.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was trying to speak and I couldn't get you. But anyway, yes, can I just say a brief comment here?
Yes.
Oh, well, we had a meeting with the city week and a half ago, and we were off to a rough start, and we had to locate where we're digging because we had to go to another pillar because the existing pillar was not on the plans, and so we've had to relocate. So we're in the process of the initial groundbreaking is not where we're going to be. We're going to get another pillar where the footings are not so deep. So it's been rough. And so we now have, Sandy Chandler and Tiger Kramer on board with, putting lines in for the electrical and the HVAC. So I just wanted to say that because it's a little update for you. Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. All right, Tim, go ahead. Sorry about that. I just forgot she was there.
I just have a couple of things I want to say. For one thing, I understand that the job that code enforcement has is a difficult one. And a lot of times we sit up here and beat up on them for rules that we've made and ask them to enforce. So just a little shout out to them saying, hang in there. And you probably should go look at what he's talking about. And the second thing, dear Mayor and fellow council members, please accept this letter as my resignation
from my position immediately as city council member for Needles, California, effective August 10, 2021. I regret that I am unable to provide more notice, but my personal and professional obligations have created a situation where I feel I am unable to serve adequately my duties as an elected official for the citizens of Needles. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support and encouragement over the past 3 years. And I wish all the best to each and every one of you on the council and the staff. I will provide any information to help the transition and be available to answer questions on a limited basis. I appreciate your understanding. This has been a very difficult decision. In my 16 years as a resident here, I have seen a lot of changes, but during the last 5 years, I have seen rapid progress in the face of daunting challenges. I feel that under the leadership of our current council, along with the assistance of our exceptional staff, the future of Needles is bright. It has been my pleasure to work with each and every one of you to improve the future of our great city. I will forever cherish the friendship and experiences I have gained as being a council member. I want to thank each and every one of you. So I'm requesting a 5-minute recess so I can gather my things.
Thank you, Tim. That will take a 5-minute break.
I mean, crying.
Moving on, number 2. Oh, Dale, on that, advertise that position so we get interviews, okay?
Well, yes, I'm glad you mentioned it, Your Honor. I plan to place a notice of vacancy in the Star.
Yeah. Hold the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I plan to place a notice of vacancy in the paper on the 18th and the 25th. And I know council had adjourned or canceled their meeting on August 24th. So I thought about maybe possibly rescheduling to an adjourned regular meeting on September 7, which is in the 30-day window to appoint,
Okay,
if that's agreeable with the mayor and council.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 2, presentation by a representative of the Mojave Land Trust regarding AB 1183 Desert Conservation Program within the California Wildlife Conservation Board requesting a resolution of support.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm Gary Hund. I'm the Executive Director of the Mojave Desert Land Trust. I live at 8562 Old Vine Road in Joshua Tree, California, where I've been a resident for 8.5 years. As the Executive Director of the Land Trust, I manage an organization with a 26 million acre service area, which includes all of the California portion of the Mojave Desert and the Colorado Desert. Mayor and City Council members, thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to hear the presentation, and I hope you will consider the resolution tonight. I don't know how much you all know about conservancies, so I'll just apologize in advance if I say something that you're already aware of. But what the legislation that I'm presenting on tonight would do is create a California Desert Conservation Program. It's similar to a state conservancy, but instead of being a standalone regional state agency, it would be under the auspices of the State Wildlife Conservation Board, which makes it a much more economical thing to run because they can use primarily existing staff. It doesn't require creating a whole new agency with, real estate, having to have an office and staff and everything else. Excuse me, I have a dog making noise in the background. I apologize. We've been working from home, of course, for a long time because of COVID-19. So this California Desert Conservancy, what it would do is there's a number of purposes and goals of the program, which include protecting and preserving and restoring the region's natural, cultural, and physical resources through acquisition, restoration, and management of lands, and similar goals, but also addressing the effects of climate change and also working to improve air quality and water resources within the region. And this is an important one, I think, for your council. One of the goals of the program would be to undertake efforts to enhance public use and enjoyment of lands owned by the public, with an emphasis on expanding opportunities for education and access to public lands for communities that currently lack access. So the legislation would allow for local government, nonprofits, and also tribes to apply for grants to undertake those types of projects. Something that I think is a really key thing as well is the economic benefits of tourism to our desert area. And I'm guessing that you're all familiar with that. But just to give you an idea, the California Desert region, spanning 8 counties with a population exceeding 19 million residents, is 48% of the entire state. And direct travel spending for the desert region amounted to $7.6 billion in 2018, with a 6.7% increase between 2017 and 2018. It also generated 73,000 jobs within the state in 2018. The Mojave Desert was ranked within National Geographic's list of one of the 100 most beautiful sites in the world. So it's a big part, of course, of our desert economy, tourism. And this bill would directly support tourism by allocating funds for the development of public use facilities. I guess the best way to give an example of the benefit is that if you have a state conservancy or conservation program, then you are eligible for bond funds when the voters pass a conservation bond. If you don't have one in your region, you don't receive any funds directly earmarked for your area. I was the associate director of the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy, which is a state conservancy that covers the greater Coachella Valley. Since 2002, the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy has received $68 million in public funds for conservation
and public access. While at the same time, the rest of the Mojave and Colorado deserts have received no direct allocations of funds because of the lack of a conservancy or conservancy program. So it can bring a tremendous amount of money over time to our desert region that will, stimulate our economy, protect our environment, and provide for public access. So I think I'll stop there and just make myself available to answer questions.
Does the council have any questions?
So
Go ahead, Donna.
How does it work? Do you come in and buy up land that's for sale? How does that work?
Well, the city, a nonprofit or another grant applicant could acquire land for conservation by applying for a grant for land acquisition. However, I do want to point out the focal areas of our land acquisition program in the area around Needles is strictly in holdings, private in holdings within national parks, national monuments, and wilderness areas. And, oftentimes when we approach these folks, their lands are completely isolated in mountainous terrain or the middle of desert washes, and they've never had anyone before approach them about buying their land. And in many, many cases, they're very, very happy that there's a buyer out there that's interested in acquiring the land. So what we do is we only acquire areas that are land in areas that are priorities for conservation. We do not acquire land in areas that are, within and adjacent to existing developed areas.
Kristen?
So this came before us like a month ago, or I think, and has it already gone in front of the House? Is it already a done deal with the state? I mean, it doesn't have our support yet, but is it already, where is it at, I guess, on the state level?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking it. It has cleared the state assembly and it's cleared the Senate Natural Resources and Water Committee. It next goes before the Appropriations Committee. It's expected that if Appropriations, approves it going forward to the full Senate, it's likely to pass. I did want to say that this is, even though it's, I know these kinds of things can be political or perceived as political, but this is really a nonpartisan effort to bring badly needed economic stimulus and conservation work to the desert. These funds could be used, for example, in addressing the issues with wildfire, like we saw it on SEMA Dome. It wouldn't be giving money to the federal government, but other areas vulnerable to fire, you could apply for grants to address issues like that. So, and also I just spoke with Dawn Rao, one of our San Bernardino County supervisors, and her staff the other day, and they were very supportive of what the bill intends to do, and they want to speak with Assemblymember Ramos, but both her and her staff did express support for, she didn't come out and take a position, but she expressed support for what the bill was trying to do.
Any other questions? I'm going to open up for a public comment. Any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council.
I do have another.
Go ahead, Kristen.
You say it has like no, it's just bringing money for us and everything, but I don't see how it's not giving parts of our desert away and giving away like our resources. We're just basically giving parts of our desert to the state government. So I see what you're saying. I see that it's not partisan, but I don't know. It's the control away. So I don't really, how can you address that for us?
Oh, I'd be happy to, and I know that's always a concern. And I've been working in conservation for 40 years and working with city councils and counties and understand, the economic interests. And what it is you think of, Mojave National Preserve and Death Valley National Park and, the areas that we've made a commitment to preserve as parks and that, bring, a great amount of tourism and add to the quality of life of our residents and our area. And that's where the acquisition is focused. It's not focused in, buying up land that is, prime for development at all. It's just to try to increase the integrity of already protected areas. Our land trust is very much supports economic development, not just tourism, but also, economic developments in the city and the county. We work very closely with local government to ensure that, we have, they understand what we're trying to do to, protect ecosystems, but we understand, areas of importance to them economically. So it's strictly from the land trust point of view, it's just trying to increase the integrity of parks where you might have private in holdings, still where, and we only buy from willing sellers. We never, we don't have any ability to condemn, nor would we ever contemplate that if we did.
Go ahead, Chris.
I guess this is more of just a comment. As it stands right now, we do have conservation efforts in place, and I feel just as from my point of view, I have a hard time giving up our parts of our desert. We're so far away from the rest of California, and that's part of the charm is like that we have our desert, we have all this beautiful land. So just from my opinion, that's all I have to say.
Yeah. And I do see it as just adding to the state lands. They're just grabbing up more land. So is there any more comments from the council? Questions? The council want to make a motion or it'll die from a lack of motion. Okay.
We appreciate your presentation now.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight.
Okay. Now we're going to recess the city council meeting, convene a joint meeting of the council and MPUA. We call this meeting to order. Roll call has previously been taken. I have a city clerk note here that the public hearing scheduled for August 10th, 2021 regarding default balances payable to the Minneapolis Public Utility Authority has been canceled by staff. Public comments pertaining to the council MPUA meeting at 3 time limit per person has been established. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing them, we move on to number 3, MPUA Council Award, the Qualified Advanced Metering Infrastructure Project bid to Landis and Gear Technology, Inc., not to exceed $1,203,097 for water funded by the Water Asset Replacement Fund. $395,089 reclamation grant, $212,826, and the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, $595,182, and not to exceed $2,090,059 for electric funded by Electric Asset Replacement Fund. Rick?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and the MPUA board. This is a proposal that we've been saving money for quite a time for, and that is to put in automated meters for water and electricity. And the electronic meters will assure accuracy. They're designed to report flaw or attempts to tinker with them. They're much more reliable. They're partly funded by a grant, but also we put out a bid. The program is recommended by the utility board after a bid process. And Rainey Torrance, Assistant Utility Manager, is prepared to give a presentation with assistance ably provided by Justin.
Cool, duet.
And then I know the preferred vendor is on the line and may have a presentation they want to give as well. So, Ms. Lawrence?
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Council. As Mr. Daniel said, the city went out to bid in May for what we call advanced metering system. This would replace all of the meters for electric and water, and they would be retrofitted with little signal towers in them that could ping the reads back to City Hall. Currently, we are utilizing a meter reader that hand reads every single meter within the city of Needles, which takes an entire 30 days, sometimes more, depending on the conditions. Last year for electric, we had to reread 3,200 meters, and that's just for inconsistency, high usage, low usage, and about 1,600 for water. As Rick mentioned, there's a lot of advantages to AMIs. Everything's automatic. It detects tampering. There's outage management systems in there. It helps with water losses and water consumption. And it also recovers revenue because we're actually providing real-time accurate reads. As Mr. Daniel said, we received 2 bids. The other bid was disqualified as it did not meet the specifications that were listed in our bid. And we have Chris Clark on the phone who's going to give you a really brief, very fast overview of the Landis and Gear AMI system that we're requesting authorization for tonight. So Chris, if you want to go ahead and unmute, and IT will pull up your presentation for you.
Thanks, Rainey. So I've unmuted. I'll just wait for the presentation to come up.
Who's there?
I guess you can see it, but I cannot. There we go. So I'll pull it on my side.
There you go.
Can you see it, Chris? No, you can't.
No, that's fine. I've got it on my side, so no worries. Always the joy of doing this virtually, right? So that said, so Mr. Mayor and Council, I appreciate you letting us come in. To Rainey's point, I'm going to try and take 3 or 4 hours of information and pull it into 10 minutes. So we'll see how good myself and the team are on doing this. So to Rainey's point, we were awarded or tentatively awarded the AMI bid as a part of this for electric and water. Landis and Gear and our partner Master Meter. We are the leaders in both electric and water and the AMI space. We've got over 300 million sensors out there worldwide. Master Meter 7 million plus. From an electric or a water perspective under glass as well. And again, we are the #1 AMI provider, certainly in North America within that. So what are we proposing? We're proposing an RF mesh. Now, what is an RF mesh? If you look at it and look at it from a spider web perspective, right? So we're proposing a network out there that, yes, we're talking about electric meters right now. We're talking about water meters, all reporting into that network. But that same network will also be able to be utilized as you move down the road to further leverage and advance your utility, advance your operational, advance your consumer capabilities and engagement out there through things like distribution automation for outage, et cetera, within that as we get more and more into green energy, the ability in which to control, monitor, et cetera, on the solar and distributed energy type resources, et cetera. So all of this is done in leveraging that same network that we are proposing right now. So you're maximizing that ROI on this investment. What does that network look like? It's really 3 components, 4, depending on how you want to articulate.
Next slide, please.
He's trying. There you get it.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm changing slides on my side, and I understand you can't see it, so I got it. So if you go to the next slide, one more. Keep going. There you go. Okay, now I've got the slides up from your standpoint. So what does that network look like? Like I said, it's really 3 or 4 bases that comprise that RF mesh network. We call this the network gateway. That's a collector. That really is one of those things that bring all of the information, collect that data, and bring it back to the head-end system, bring it back to the utility office where it goes into billing, et cetera, and the multitudes of integrated functionality and software within that. Fully battery backed, 15-year battery associated with that, fully upgradable as technology may or may not advance. You have that capability of adapting and upgrading that without having to rip and replace, for lack of better ways to say that. Next slide, please. Router. This, much like it says, is a router, right? It routes the information throughout your service territory, ultimately back to that gateway. Here we see it on a wood pole. I would say that is a very common application. Also on a street light would be an application as well. Very common within that. Again, 15-year battery back, fully upgradable within that. Next slide, please. So those two network components comprise what I will call the mesh umbrella, for lack of better ways to say that. Now we're going to get into two avenues where I'll call it the in the ground and 6-foot level that comprise really the baseline of the RF mesh. All of those work together to comprise what we're proposing as a Gridstream Connect RF mesh solution. So there's the next two slides on water. I'm going to turn it over to Dusty and or Dave to go through and talk water, and then I'll take it over from there.
Okay, Chris, thank you. This is Dusty Laughlin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you folks for your time tonight. I'll go through these next two slides quickly. This meter here that you're looking at is our residential multi-jet meter. It is a velocity-based technology that has one moving part that you see there on the screen, and that's the impeller. When water.
Are you there?
We lost you.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I may have lost signal for a second, but if you can hear me.
Go ahead, Dusty.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So when water flows into this meter via and into the measuring chamber via the multi-ports, hence the name multi-jet, this impeller is ultimately frictionless. It raises off its sapphire bearing just ever so slightly. And we'll go to the next slide if you would, please. Great, thank you. And so you see on this slide that the multi-jet meter is held to a higher standard for low flow accuracy at 97%. The 360-degree basket strainer that surrounds that impeller makes it a much more resilient and accurate meter, sustained accurate meter with the suspended particles that may be in the water. This increased resiliency allows us to offer a 20-year, 2.5 million gallon warranty, which is a leader in the industry. The fact that the meter is frictionless, like I mentioned, makes for the most quiet operation of any mechanical meter in the marketplace. And the last point there on the screen you'll see is that this multi-jet technology is the same technology, velocity-based, that you have in your other meters in the system, be it a turbine, a compound, or a solid state. The difference being the positive displacement as the only other meter not of that technology in the marketplace and around the world. And I hope that all that came through for you well.
Yep.
Thanks, Dusty. If you can go to the next slide,
Thank
please.
you.
So electric meters again, right? I mean, so Dusty hit on the water meters. So the water, I'm sorry, was there a question? Oh, okay. The water meters are going to report up to a parent. The electric meters are normally the parent, for lack of better ways to say that, right? And we've got two versions, two flavors. One is the residential, which is our focus line. And the second is our commercial and industrial, our polyphase, which are our S4X. These are the two leading platforms in the AMI space in North America. You're looking at roughly about a 50% plus or minus 1 or 2 within that market share in North America. They're best in class meters from not only a functionality perspective, but a safety, security, and upgradable perspective as well. Next slide, please. So, like I said, I'm trying to take 3 hours worth of content and bury it down into 10 minutes, right? And probably not doing a very good job of doing any justice to it. But ultimately, the question comes of where is the benefit, right? Of we're going from system A to system B. There's an investment associated with that. Where is the benefit not only to the utility, but equally, and I would argue even more importantly, to the end customer. So what we see here are I don't want to even call it the top 5 or 6, right? These are just some ideas that, you know, or things that have come about over the years of where are the benefits to those organizations. Enhanced reliability is definitely, you know, where we talk about outage notification and restoration and improving that restoration time and outages. That's a big one. Billing, Rainey had mentioned that earlier, right? And that goes both from a electric and a water perspective of being able to get accurate billing from that standpoint. Disconnects and reconnects. Now, that could somewhat be construed as a negative, but I would turn that as a positive from the standpoint that then opens up the ability for the city, for the utility to bring in prepay. Prepay, you know, could improve not only functionality for or availability for your consumers, but also account receivable and improve that account receivable activity on the billing side. Rates, that's always a big one where, you know, as you well know, certainly in Southern California and California in general, but you know, as we look at demand response, et cetera, solar, the ability and flexibility in which to address and deal with rate functionality and rate flexibility and be able to change that over the air to adjust as the market deems. And again, it comes back to that demand response, right? Solar, wind, et cetera, green energy is becoming more and more prevalent. It has an impact on the utility side. We need the ability in which to adjust to that. I will add one more here that's not on here. Rainey and I actually talked about it yesterday, that if you look at an advanced AMI system like we're proposing, it gives you the ability in which to incorporate and engage your consumers in a consumer-based portal, right? Where they have the ability to engage in and understand what their real-time usage is and look at that and be able to take control per se of their usage within that. It also gives you the ability in which to do real-time or to do bill presentment and online bill pay within that. All geared towards trying to get more engagement and more functionality and usability for that end consumer. So again, I went over that. Dusty went over this really, really quick. I apologize for that, but hopefully that helped a little bit, and more than happy to take any of your questions that you have now.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Go ahead, Kristen.
One of my questions, and you've addressed it a bit, like internet safety. So like since it's all going to be Wi-Fi like connected, I know that there's been a lot of hacking that's gone on in other, not necessarily with this situation, but you know, in infrastructures across the country. How do you guys keep us safe in that sense? And then
go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then I said to, oh yeah, I'll just have you answer that one and I'll ask the next one later.
No, I know that's a phenomenal question, and I think it's one that, you know, you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? It's very much so front and center in today's world that we live in. So these are not going to be Wi-Fi connected per se. They are going to be most likely cellular backhaul within that. Now with Landis & Gyr, we take security an encryption from end to end, and we own security from end to end, which is different than just about anybody else out there in the marketplace, where we don't have any third parties, et cetera, associated with that. So you have full 256 bit AES encryption throughout your entire messaging traffic, for lack of better ways to say that. So from that standpoint, I think it's very safe. It's as safe as can be. There are definitely other avenues that can be increased along the way should you ever get to that point where we call advanced security, where you've got individual handshakes, et cetera, through every message within that. But that tends to be more of, I'll call it an IOU based, where they play in the NERC SIP type world, and they have those requirements put upon them. But again, we've got well over 360 some odd installations out there in North America. It's very proven. It is penetration tested on an annual basis, so that we can identify those shortcomings and identify it, and make corrections as needed. Hope that kind of helped within that.
Go ahead.
My second question was, if we accept the bid and everything, how do you assist, how does your company and how does our city work together to get this replaced on all of the homes, all the businesses? Randy might be able to answer that. That was, I guess, my next question.
Yeah, I'll definitely answer that. You'll see in your packet, we bid this 2 ways, with and without installation. Unfortunately, our crews aren't large enough. So Landis and Gear actually utilizes a third party that will mobilize a 5-person crew. And we will have all the entire meters installed within 2 to 3 months once we begin conducting this. So it's going to roll out fairly fast, and we're going to move pretty fast.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing to that as well, Rainey. So we're bidding a total turnkey solution here. So our job is to obviously deliver on the electric, water, the integration into your billing, et cetera, have everything integrated and installed, and then turn over the keys once Rainey and team have approved and accepted that system within that. And I agree with everything Rainey said. I mean, we will throw whatever we need to at this to get this done in a turnkey fashion.
Okay.
Couple questions.
Go ahead, Tom.
You said, how long have you been around this company?
Landis and Gear has been around. We just celebrated last month our 125 years.
Oh.
And I just want to state, they work currently with Ahamakov Power, so we know their system works well in this climate, which is critical to know.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's
we do. That's a great point. We do a Ahamakov, and we certainly have a significant number of installations in Arizona as well. So that desert climate, I guess you could say we embrace, for lack of better ways to say that.
All right.
Any other questions?
Any further questions from council?
I'd like to know what happens to our meter reader? What happens to that position if we take this out?
We have, we will absorb that position elsewhere in the water and electric crews. There will always be a need for some rereads and turn on and shut offs, but otherwise that person will be absorbed into the water. No one will lose their job on this.
I was just not only just losing the job, I was looking at the cost effective where you have
Yeah.
a salary, where you're going to spend this money on this, and then does that offset somehow or somewhere?
No,
Just curious.
but one of the things that wasn't mentioned that I find fascinating is this system will allow you as a customer be able to go onto your phone and call up what your meter read is now for water and electricity. It will also be able to tell you how much you use this month compared to the same month last year, and better load management on the part of customers. But I'll get out of here.
That brings up, so then when we have this all done and it's all forward, can we put something maybe in the utility bills that say, hey, you can go on your phone and look up for transparency? Okay, perfect.
All right, well, we will notify people before we start this because there's gonna be a lot of activity.
Okay. We'll open up, see if there's any public input on item.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Barbara Deere, 213 Safari, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I know nothing about any of this at all. I did hear end to end, and some huge company just got nailed for saying that they were end to end, and it turned out they weren't. But now that we know that this company is unique to our area and knows what they're doing, I'll scratch that doubt, okay? End to end, I wouldn't even know how to look for end to end so that there's no hacking coming in. So I would have no idea. But what I'm concerned about is paying the electric bills like we just did this month when everybody I know went into shock, including me. Terry Campbell got up here last council meeting and said that our reserve funds in the electric and MPUA were gone after the increase, quadruple or triple increase to buy power this last time. So we didn't have anything left in the reserve. Is that not what he said? And here it says some of this is coming in from grants, I understand from what this is saying, but it says, and not to exceed 2,090,059 for electric funding funded by the Electric Asset Replacement Fund. Now, is that a different fund than what Terry was talking about that caused our bills to go up when we bought the power last month?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad. One won't affect the other.
Correct.
Okay. And we all need this, right? This isn't like a luxury item. Okay, great. Thank you.
Good question, Barbara.
Yeah.
All right, Ruth.
Okay, thank you. This is Ruth Messer Lopez, Needles, California. I noticed that this bidder was $1 million more than the other guy on the electrical part anyway. I have a question concerning, it might have already got answered because it's been tested in the area possibly, but this plastic impeller that was shown on the screen, I've been through this before with the plastic impellers in the desert, and I just wonder if this company tested this part for sustainability in desert needles, and if we're going to end up with a big bill going in to have to do repairs on these frequently, meters, water meters. Can you answer that? Thank you.
Go ahead, Rainey.
Yes, I'll go ahead and answer that for you. Right now, we currently have a hodgepodge of water meters on our distribution system, but approximately 40% of them are already master meters. So we already utilize both master meter and Landis+Gyr meters currently. So they met the bid requirements on being proven and tested in our area.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any other public input? So now we'll bring it back to the council for deliberation or motion.
I have a question.
Okay.
Rick, on the for the asset replacement, this is going to be spread out, this 2 million, well, 3.5 over 2 years, correct? Anyways.
Yeah.
So it isn't all one chunk coming out at one time.
Right. And if the council agrees with award of the contract, award of the bid, then I will enter negotiations with Landis+Gyr, who's the primary contractor here, and we will negotiate that drawdown of cash. And we also, I just received a note from Ms. Torrance that identifies that that after June 30, 2021, Electric will have 1.9 million remaining in their reserve for capital projects as opposed to the operational, which was the question Ms. Beard had. And then we will transfer over another 499,000 before the end of this fiscal year. So we're replenishing that capital fund. So your concern earlier today was, does this deplete the capital improvements fund? And the answer is no. There'll be 2.5 million by the end of the year, by the end of the fiscal year. We have 1.9 in that fund right now, after we take out the money for this.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Fiscal year, you mean next June?
Yes, right. So but we already have 1.9 million in there. The balance was at the end of the last fiscal year. So, and we've already deducted, so it's unobligated cash. And then on water, water will have 808. And then there will be an additional 100,000 that is added to I sent this to you, so you may find it there on your,
Email.
okay.
Just doing math.
So there will be, there's 808,000 there now after this commitment. And then there will be another 100,000 that's transferred in during this fiscal year for their water capital improvements, asset replacement.
Go ahead.
I'd like to move the motion.
A motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
One more question.
Go ahead.
And this is probably just beating a dead horse, but could you just break it down just a little bit more just for like clarity? So there's the project cost is with the installation, it's 1.2 for the water and 2 for the electric.
Right.
And the amount, I mean, I did this earlier, but I just wanted for everybody. So then the amount from the coronavirus is 600,000.
595,000.
Okay.
Roughly.
All right.
Then you have a Bureau of Reclamation grant,
Mhm.
which is $212,000.
Yes. Okay.
So that makes an $800,000 roughly contribution just towards water.
Okay, just towards water. So
Yeah.
that's the 800,000 towards the 1.2.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So then the remaining balance of approximately 395,000 would go against the water asset replacement fund,
Got it. Okay.
which currently has about $1.1 million in it.
Okay.
So that would leave approximately $800,000 remaining.
All right.
And then we will contribute another $100,000 throughout this fiscal year.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to.
And
break
then
it
I
all
can
down.
clarify, electric has $3.9 million in it. And the project funds for this, about 2 million will go against that, leaving 1.9 remaining, with an additional $500,000 being contributed this year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Yeah, I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion, a second, we'll call for the vote.
Five ayes, Councilmember Campbell.
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Pageant.
Aye.
Bell.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, MPA Council consent calendar, all matters listed on the consent calendar is considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion of the form listed. Excuse me. The mayor and any member of an MPA City Council may pull an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Party MPA Council, actually, member of the public may address the MPA City Council on matters scheduled on the consent calendar, 3-minute time limit per person applies. Recommended actions to approve items 4 through 6 on the consent calendar by affirmative vote, call vote.
Okay, I'm here. I have a comment. My hand's raised.
Go ahead, Ruth.
Okay, this is Ruth Musser Lopez, Eagles, California. I support, okay, this is concerning item 6. And don't get me wrong, I support the well project, though I do think there are better places in town to mine for water than where you selected. But I happened to review the attachment to the packet that had the environmental document in it, which I know you have to have an environmental assessment to get the state funds you need. And you had a cultural report in there that was supposed to comply with CEQA, but there were huge futile errors in that report that I must object to. Number one, the archaeologist, though qualified, possibly did not even visit Needles or look at the site, and she admitted it in the report. And I believe she didn't even check county records to see what was on that site historically, which I really am very concerned with this city about how our history, by using these out-of-town companies from LA and Orange County who don't know shit from Shinola about either San Bernardino County, and especially Needles, coming over here and telling us our history, which she didn't even report that there was a bowling alley there once and a marina there once. And she didn't seem to know anything about what was what on Route 66 or Old Trails Highway, nothing. And I just have to tell you, we do have a county state college, Cal State San Bernardino, where they have an anthropology department where they're training archaeologists to do this kind of work. Now we don't even have a county museum that has our records in it because they moved it to Fuller, our records to Fullerton. This all must start on the city level. We must demand our county supervisors to do better, and you need to start demanding yourselves to do better as far as hiring local people, local archaeologists, giving local archaeologists jobs. We have a lot of young people coming up that know the history of our county. So I'm objecting. I want to put it on the record that I object that this report does not comply with CEQA, PRC section 21,000 at suite, or CCR section 1500 at C. And I just want to demand more. I demand more from our city with regard to stop paying a bunch of money to hire out of county firms that don't know us, that don't know our history, that don't even come here to get our oral history. Oh yeah, they went to the tribes, but tribes that don't even, they got reports from other tribes that aren't even from Needles. So they sought their input, but not local historians, not local people. I doubt they even went to the museum, so I object. But
Thank you, Ruth.
I like the report. I do like the idea of having a replacement well, but not, yeah, I think you guys need to look where there's really good water, and you're missing it.
Okay, thank you. Any other public input on the consent calendar? Any as a council for we have a motion yet?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Oh, wait, no, never mind. I'm okay. I figured it out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Need a motion in a second?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Call for the vote.
Five ayes, Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Pageant.
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm going to recess the joint council MPA meeting and reconvene the city council meeting. Public hearings, number 7 has been continued to September 14th. 8 has been continued to September 14th. 9 has been continued to September 14th. And number 10, public hearing noticed to consider all evidence and testimony for or against approving an ordinance amending chapter 6, adding article 10 entitled violation penalty in the Needles Municipal Code, adding penalties for work without permits.
Honorable Mayor and council members, in front of you, we have ordinance 643-AC, which, as you recall, in your March 11, 2021 council meeting, you'd requested, based on experience that you had gone through, that builders were going and building construction without permits. And so what we wanted to do is get together with the city attorney and find a solution to help establish a fee for work that's constructed without permits, which you're allowed to do within the 2019 edition of the building code. So what we've constructed are 4 sets of milestones that a individual contractor or owner builder would go through when you construct or build something at a house. So for instance, if you were to build a single family home, the building permit cost would be $3,122. Okay, so say the first violation would be a fee equal to the permit fee. And so you'd have to pay in addition $3,122, which is an investigation fee to the builder or the owner builder. Okay, we're gonna call owner builder builder. We're just gonna call it the same to not complicate the matter. All right, so the second offense, say I go to Joe Schmo's house and I caught them again within, right now it's, just a draft, but we have a 12-month period. So within the 12-month period, you see somebody building without a permit twice, they're gonna get hit twice. So they're gonna hit, it's an investigation fee equal to 2 times the fee, and then there's an additional $500 that's on top of that. So it'd be $6,244 plus a $500 penalty fee. And again, this is for a single family home. This isn't for a roof or something like that. But it'd be the same process. And then the third time be fee equal 3 times their permit fee, so $9,366. And then there'd be a $1,000 penalty fee on top of that. And then the fourth time, we turn it over to the city attorney for prosecution. So as you know, building codes are put in place for safety standards, and it's important that we go through the process to ensure that builders are building with permits to ensure the safety of their homes. And so this is what we have in front of you. If you have any questions, we are available for questioning.
All right, Kristen.
My question, I guess I have a concern. I mentioned about the 12-month period. I'd like to see that much higher, because otherwise I'm afraid that people will be like, oh, this year I'm going to do this without a permit. Next year I'll do that. I just have to pay a small fee. So I think that should be like 5 years or something a lot higher. And then my other question, when I read this, I was concerned because I just saw the penalty fees were like 500, 1,000. And I thought, well, that doesn't seem like very much. So I know that we run into a problem because we're also doubling the permit fee. So like essentially they could be paying like 10 grand if they do it 3 times. But I guess I would like to just see a penalty that kind of hurts. I don't mean that in a weird way, but I want to make sure that we're getting to we're just nipping this whole issue in the bud, I guess. So if that makes sense.
So to answer your question, the bigger projects, so if there was a bigger project that was going through this and they decided to, say a commercial cannabis project, for instance, those building permits can be up to $24,000. And so, 3 times or 2 times 24,000, 3 times 24,000, that really hurts.
Yes,
And
I agree.
and then from an owner builder perspective, we've got somebody putting in their water heater and didn't pull a permit. I mean, it's going to affect the different individuals at the different levels. A homeowner will get hit, relatively lower than a commercial builder would. There's a potential for looking into higher fees if you'd like.
Yeah, but that's just my concern again.
Go ahead, Donna.
Well, the only thing is if, I moved into town not on council and I had no idea about, until I came on council about building permits. So the first time you just pay the building permit fee, which kind of okay, you didn't know, right? Am I reading that right? So then the second time, and especially if you increase the amount of time to 5-10 years, then now you're aware. That's still $6,000, $7,000. That to me, that's a hurt. That's.
But that would be the second time, right?
Correct, but that's saying that the first time it's like, hey, you didn't know, pay the fee, pay the normal amount because maybe you didn't know, leaning on the side that people just didn't know, right? Second time, now you're doubled and a fee. I think that seems pretty reasonable.
Yes, and Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor,
right.
Councilor Bell, the 33 or 30, the 3,000 was a typical let me say 1,800 square foot home at $200 a square foot. So
Yeah.
it's all going to depend upon the size and the value. But yeah, 30,
That's still a,
33 that turns into 66
That's
is.
it's a huge chunk for me. I mean,
Go ahead.
Have we got any idea how this compares with comparable cities of our size and what their penalties for this are? To me, this seems like it might be an awful high penalty pay, and I'm wondering if Havasu or Bullhead and Kingman, if they're, what kind of penalties they might have in this matter?
Well, excuse me. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Paget, no is the short answer, but would be glad if you want to continue, would be glad to research how other jurisdictions are handling it. Now, the building code includes a provision for doubling the fee. Yeah, but on multiple offenders, we can research that if you want to continue it.
And I wasn't trying to be harsh. It's just like ignorance of the law isn't an excuse. So I think if it's your second time, you know, and I wasn't trying to seem like, but like, if it's my second time, it's like, all right, I guess I have to pay it. You know, like, I think if I don't know, maybe that's just how I always viewed that. So I wasn't trying to seem too harsh, but I feel like round two, you know, it's becoming an issue. That's just my opinion.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Did you say that the sorry, that you would put down the second fine only if it happened within 12 months?
So currently, if the way it's written right now is so if someone put on a roof without a permit, and then 6 months later they were doing something else without a permit, they'd get the ×2, and then the third time within that year, and then it'd start over after the year.
Why would it start over at all? If you were told not to do it, then that's it. That's it.
And Mr. Mayor, that's what Kirsten was raising is maybe it ought to be 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, if you're told and you're caught doing something you're not supposed to do, and we've told you, look, we're letting you pass, don't do this again, and you just turn around and spit on the city and say, I can do what I want, and then just do it. I don't care if it's 2 years or 5 years. I don't care if personally, if within 10 years, unless you have dementia, you should know that you do not do this, period, that there's rules and there's regulations. And I don't subscribe to ignorance of the law is no excuse. There are things that homeowners do because they're handymen or they can fix it themselves. They had no idea. Like, you just sometimes don't know the law. Like, I didn't know it was illegal to park your trailer in front of your house after 33 years. Someone pointed it out by giving me 2 tickets.
So I'd be happy to go take a look at it, look at the local ordinance, see we could extend the length of the time, and then also look at other cities locally and see what they're doing as well. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Continue.
Someone for public comment?
Already said yes.
Well, it just reminded me when she said the dementia, I knew you were standing.
You will have that tires, Oh, I'm so glad you're here tonight. Our Revere 213 Safari. We did have a couple examples recently about people that have very cavalier attitudes about pulling permits.
Yeah.
My issue is the people that know better intentionally getting away with it and not being penalized for it. And I can't imagine too many people that want to build a home from scratch or at least make major improvements on it don't know they better check with the city first to see if there's any permits that have to be pulled. It's, most people have that for common sense, okay? There were several things when I bought my house. It's different from where I used to live. All places I used to live. And I found out first what the city code was, if I had to pull a permit before I did it. To me, I knew to ask a couple other things. Maybe I wouldn't ask. I don't know. Maybe I won't get caught. But I don't do construction, okay? And I wouldn't be building a house by myself. So we have had people in the city recently that have a very cavalier attitude about it, and they don't care. They're going to pay the penalty because it's so small. Doubling the fee didn't bother them because what they wanted to do was what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it, and they could have cared less. Now, what another problem is that I have with that is the time you end up taking with code enforcement, like the one person that pulled a permit but didn't call for an inspection. Okay, and he just, I don't know how he got filtered out of the paperwork. Where how come, you know, maybe he was caught in his paperwork having never called for an inspection, or maybe something else led us to inspect that location. I don't know, but there's nothing in here about pulling a permit and never calling for an inspection to get the permit issued. I don't know if that makes a difference in the process or not. Maybe we can also fine for that. Tearing down the drywall might be sufficient. I'm not sure, depending on what they didn't pull a permit for. But I think I would agree with Councilwoman Merritt that stretching the time out, because some of these people might do 2 or 3 projects a year that are smaller and continue to not pull permits. And they shouldn't be able to just go back to the lowest fine again when they know better. Anyway, I'm done. I'll get mad talking about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta say, I like your thinking right here. You know what? You don't pull a permit, the fines need to be stiff enough that you don't do it again. It's done.
I need your name and address.
Jeff Sievers, 3610 Riverview Terrace. But there's enough problems that people aren't pulling permits and okay, hey, we're going to slap you on the wrist. If I go rob a bank, I'm not going to get a slap on the wrist. If I do it again, it's probably going to be more than that. So the first time we're going to put you in the penalty box. The second time, you're no longer going to be allowed to pull these owner build permits, because there's a up in North Needles, there's a gentleman that's probably not qualified to be a handyman that's doing more work than a handyman could do. And his work sucks.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's code problems up there that have now been addressed or need to be addressed, and it needs to come to an end. You guys need to make the penalties where they get the message, and if they don't, then I mean, hey, like you said, okay, the first one's $3,000. Well, you know what? If I don't get caught, $3,000 is nothing. But if I do get caught, $3,000 is what I was going to pay anyways. And then we don't pull these permits. We don't even know if the work's up to code. Like you said, okay, hey, the drywall's up. Did he do the electricity right? Or is he, again, he's a handyman, but he thinks he can do drywall. So now the electricity's covered up, and there's not a problem until there's a problem. And now there's a problem in North Needles. It's probably the same gentleman, and it needs to come to an end. You guys need to put your foot down, and the fines need to be a lot stiffer to where they get the message.
Thank you. Any further public input on this item?
No.
Excuse me. Jesus. Ruth?
Ruth, thank you. You have to unmute yourself if you want to comment.
Is it up for this?
I don't know. All right, we'll close the public input. She left.
She put her hand out.
Oh, okay, so we'll bring it back to council for discussion and deliberation on, we had a suggestion that we continue this. So I'll make a motion.
I will move to continue this.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Will be continued to the September
To the
14th.
September 14th to give Patrick more time to look into some things and answer those questions for us. Thank you, Patrick.
okay, call for the vote.
4 ayes, Councilmember Campbell.
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Pageant,
Yes.
Belt.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, number 11, public hearing notice to consider all evidence and testimony for or against adding a fee for a range membership program at the River's Edge Golf Course.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we've had one individual in the community request that he be able to buy range balls, unlimited range balls for a monthly fee. The current fee schedule doesn't have that, so I worked with Touchstone and the individual involved, and our unanimous concurrence was $54 a month for unlimited range balls. A minimum of 6 months would be appropriate. Our recommendation is for approval.
Any questions of the staff or council for the staff?
That was a limit of 2 buckets a day. What's that? That was a limit of 2 buckets a day. The way I read that. Yes, you're right. Correct.
I didn't see that.
Okay.
And family share.
Just want to make sure that didn't say unlimited.
Yeah.
You'd be out there all day long. Yeah. Of course.
I could share my bucket with my husband.
All right, I'm gonna open this up for a public hearing. Is there any public comment on this item?
My name's Chris Finks, 1501 Lily Hill, Needles, California. I was just curious, I heard the comment of working with Touchstone. I was here kind of as a city employee, wondering if we are working with Touchstone or not, and that's kind of why I showed up to this council meeting. So I was just curious, could that be answered?
Mr. Mayor, if I might, Touchstone runs the pro shop.
Yes.
For us. And we've been working with Touchstone as it relates to that. The other matter about whether they take over maintenance hasn't been decided. It'll be probably the next council meeting, but Chris will make sure you get.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other public comments about the range wells? All right, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council for discussion, deliberation, or motion.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
I have a motion, a second, call for the vote.
Four ayes, Councilmember Campbell,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Pageant,
Yeah.
Belt.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, number 12, public hearing notice to consider all evidence and testimony for or against approval of a conditional use permit for the installation of a digital billboard approximately 7 by 14 at 429 North K Street, also known as assessor parcel. Applicant is Michael Patrick West.
And the vice mayor is stepping out. He's recusing himself on this item because he owns a property that's across the intersection from this property, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We do not have the votes to approve this. We're down to 3 votes now with the vice mayor stepping out.
Then you may want to continue the item if you don't have enough council members in the meeting to a time where you have more council members present.
We're gonna need a motion to continue this till September meeting.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Because I don't know the answer. If there's someone here to speak on behalf of this project, are we allowed to hear that and continue it? Or do we have to just?
You can
We'd have to vote
Okay.
to hear the information also.
All right.
So we need a motion to continue.
Don?
I'm sorry.
Zach's not calling in, right?
Well, we have a quorum. We have a quorum. Am I correct, Dale?
No.
No, we do not. We have
Okay,
a
then- then-
3 council members.
Okay, so if we don't have a quorum, then the appropriate action would be to continue the item so that it can be addressed fully when you have a quorum present.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I will pull this and reschedule it for the next meeting.
All right, thank you.
Is it, it's a public hearing. Do you want to pull it or do you want to continue the public hearing?
We want to
Continue it.
continue the public hearing to September 14.
Do we need a motion for that?
I'll move to continue
Thank you.
to the next meeting.
Man, we don't have enough votes, but that's okay. So we need a second.
Second it.
You can just continue it, Mayor. You can
Okay.
do that.
We don't.
Good luck.
We can't even vote on that.
Mayor can just direct that the public hearing be continued.
All right, I'm gonna direct the public hearing to be continued
Thank you, Jim.
to September 13. Public hearing notice to consider all evidence and testimony for or against a cannabis retail business being proposed at 2103 Needles Highway in the C2 General Commercial Zone, also known as APN 0185-266-09. Applicant is Matt Kaplan. Staff report.
Honorable Mayor, council members, in front of you, we have resolution number 2021-48 regarding 2103 Needles Highway, a retail cannabis business. They're seeking a CUP for a 1,956 square foot retail cannabis business located in the general commercial zone stated at the previous address. It's located on the west end of the city. Within its vicinity, as you can see on the map, across the street is a liquor store. To the west is numerous cannabis developments. To the south is a residential neighborhood, and then to the right is a vacant gas station. Here is the aerial map of the site currently that has the retail dispensary proposed. Is that you? 1 second. It's coming back to the left. There you go. Nope, nope, other one. There you go. Okay. So a little bit of background. The applicant has applied for a CUP for the 1,900 square foot building. The site currently is developed and serves as a distribution facility. The license has expired with the state as of July 2021 and will not be renewed with the state. The proposed site is situated on the 0.41 acre parcel, and it's located in the general commercial zone, which permits this kind of use. The site includes 8 parking spots and is 500 feet from 2 transit areas, which reduces the parking requirements. It'll employ 10 full-time and 10 part-time employees and will operate 7 days a week, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Here's the site plan. It's along Needles Highway in R Street in the city of Needles. The far west side has a existing warehouse that will not be utilized and requires a CUP to move forward with any kind of use. The building to the south east of the property is the existing distribution area that will be converted to the retail cannabis business if it's permitted by this council. Here's the floor plan. There will be an office, an ID check, shelving, and a cashier. So the entrance, you come in through the top there, you go through the shelf, you purchase, and then you exit through the top there. This is what the site looks like currently. Basically, it's a existing building. Here's what it looks like facing it directly. There's the existing retail building with a shade structure. So the project has been conditioned to ensure lighting and shielded from the south. As I had mentioned earlier, there are residents below, but we'll make sure that the negative impact is not on the residential dwelling units. The security systems are in place with the wall for health and safety purposes, the prohibition of distribution to minors. It's limited to access to those 21 and 18, and the building number 2 shall be prohibited from any use. So just going through the requirements for a conditional use permit, there are 7 requirements that are required for a conditional use permit to be approved or denied. So of those 7, we're just going to walk through them really quick. So obviously the first one, it's within the jurisdiction. Number 2, the application is complete. Number 3, the development is in general conformity with the Needles general plan. So because of its proper zoning, the business is able to operate in the general commercial designated zone. Finding number 4, the development is harming with the area in which it's located. So a condition has been placed on the project to ensure the lighting is shielded from the south. Therefore, the type of project is consistent with using during the vicinity of the project because of the other cannabis projects that are adjacent to the site. Number 5, will not materially endanger the public health and safety. The commercially developed area of the city. Conditions of approval have been placed to ensure that the appropriate lighting, security systems, fencing, ventilation systems are in place to not impact the health and safety Number 6, the development will not substantially injure the value of the adjoining abutting properties. So the project is previously underwent improvements for a cannabis facility site with new fencing, repair, replacement, damaged curbs, sidewalk areas. These will be requirements that assist in maintaining the value of the adjoining properties. And then finally, the overall is consistent with the preceding findings. So the project findings discuss detail regarding compatibility with the other similar uses in the area. Therefore, overall project is consistent with the preceding findings. So the Planning Commission on August 4, 2021 recommended approval of the CEP for this project. Comments included the city is not supporting the existing businesses by allowing additional retail cannabis businesses to be permitted in the city. And again, there was discussion about retail cannabis businesses, too many of them being included in the city. Our recommendation from the staff is approve resolution number 2021-48 for a CUP of a 1,956 square foot retail cannabis business located in the C2 zone at 2103 Needles Highway. I'm available for any questions you might have. The applicant is also here and has a presentation for you as well.
Does council have questions for staff?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Doc brought up a good point right now. How old exactly is our general plan?
1985.
Okay, so when will our general plan, it's just listening to everybody, the comments today, when is our goal to get that actually completed so that we can identify areas? So we're not spot zoning everywhere.
Right, about 4 years ago, we put it out to bid to have somebody develop a new general plan for us. And it came in at about $900,000.
Mhm.
We didn't have it. So what we've done is we're doing an element at a time. And so far, 100% has been funded by grants from the state. So our goal would be to have it done within the next couple of years.
But what about the general plan in the sense of business versus housing? How can we expedite into that so that we have a goal for the city? Is my
Right
thought.
now, oh, sorry, excuse me for interrupting. Mr. Mayor, the land use element is underway right now. And that will lay out where business can go and where residents
Residential.
can go, and then where multifamily, and it lays out, there used to be a zoning map in here, would lay out a new or revise existing zoning scheme. And I think that is the part that
Asking for.
that's what you,
Wait,
because,
how long were you thinking?
when,
So you're going to be seeing public input the next 2 months. We're going to be having meetings with the public community coming together. There was a survey that was issued out already, and so I'll get that survey to you so we can distribute it out as well, because they were just getting an idea of our community. They've come out and visit our community and driven it and understand it. But within the next 2 months, you're going to see community outreach occurring on behalf of the land use element and the transportation element.
but direct answer, if I might, Mr. Mayor, probably March, it should be completed. There's an environmental document that has to be done. And then it'll be before the planning commission, then you for adoption. And concurrently, we're doing the transportation element too. So it should follow that same track.
Ed?
Yeah. And so, and saying that this matter is consistent with the general plan. And the general plan was written in 1985 when we weren't having dispensaries for cannabis. Is it consistent because it isn't mentioned in the general plan? Or why is it consistent?
Mr. Mayor,
Patrick.
so the Needles general plan, it's consistent with the general plan because in 629 AC, which was the 12A last adopted by council last May 2020, allowed retail cannabises to be opened in commercial zones. So the zoning already existed in the general plan, but because the council allowed the adoption in 629 AC.
Okay.
So, and it's up to the council whether they want to change that. That's your guys' call.
And Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, the general plan includes programs, goals, ideals, visions, but it also includes a land use map. And then that is further defined by the zoning map, and that's the part where it's consistent. Because that stretch of Needles Highway was always, or for quite some time, at least since 85, envisioned as commercial.
Okay.
Any further questions for staff? We go ahead and open this for public comment.
The applicant, I believe, has something to say if you want to hear.
Matt, do you have something?
Yes, please.
If you put it in the presentation, I don't know if it'll work when it converts over to PowerPoint. It's not holding it.
It's one slide. Is that?
Yeah.
right?
Is there a way to put it in a presentation mode?
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Yeah, perfect. All right, thanks. So I know there are a number of concerns about allowing additional dispensaries in the city. I'd just like to address a few points on that topic in general, and I'll definitely finish with why I think that our particular dispensary is an especially good candidate for approval. The voices I've heard in opposition and basically fall into two groups. First, there are citizens who simply don't want more dispensaries in town. And now that's totally understandable. And even I have to admit that I would be a much more frequent customer of a new burger place or a bakery if one were to open in town. I go there more than I go to a dispensary. Even if it was my own dispensary, trust me, I'd be at the bakery. But the reality is there are no applications for burger stands or cookie shops tonight. Potential dispensaries are not taking buildings away and taking opportunities away from other businesses. In fact, they're developing vacant land. They're bringing unused and dilapidated buildings up to current building codes. They're modernizing sidewalks, as Patrick said. We're paying to improve infrastructure. We're making it easier for the next burger place or the next bakery to open. Maybe it's next door to a dispensary, or maybe it's going to take over that nice new renovated building if a dispensary doesn't make it. I think it's a fallacy to think that we're choosing between another dispensary and some other business. The reality is our choice is between a business that happens to be a dispensary and an empty lot, a dilapidated building, and no business at all. I get a call, whenever the consultants come to town, I get a call or an email, and I'm always happy to meet with them and talk to them about the future plans for the city. And I moved here from a small town with exactly zero to offer. It never gets too hot in Buellton, California, but it doesn't have the river. There's no beaches. There's no off-roading. It basically was just a rest stop between Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo. But thanks to a movie called Sideways, it's now a tourist destination for wine drinkers. And those vineyard tours, they support hotels, they support restaurants, they support bakeries, and somehow they support more junk and souvenir shops than they probably should. And while state regulations don't allow the grows or the extractions or anything like that that we have an abundance of in town, it doesn't allow us to give public tours now. It's definitely something that could happen in the future. And, I don't particularly like Buellton, but Needles has the potential not to be Buellton, but to be the Napa of cannabis one day. Here we are, we have the Colorado River water, and, we're growing indoor cannabis, and there's an argument to be made that we could have, nobody could say we're not growing the best indoor cannabis in the state. And it's kind of well accepted that California is going to be the best cannabis in the country. And, you've heard of Humboldt or the Emerald Triangle and all these places. These are all outdoor farms. There's no reason that Needles, especially with the Route 66 stuff that we have here and the cannabis stuff we have here, it really could be a tourism, in the future for the city. So the second voice of opposition that I've heard is it comes from the existing dispensary owners. And again, I understand the points they might have. There is a limit to demand for cannabis in Needles, and certainly any new competition eventually would be taking a share of the existing customer base away from those dispensaries. But here's the question. Is it the city council's job to help existing businesses by limiting their competition? One of the planning commission members made a point last week And they said if they had an application for a new liquor store in front of them, there wouldn't even be a discussion about its impact on the 18 other businesses that already sell liquor in the city. But I would take the question even a step further. Is it in any way in the city's best interest to limit competition for a dispensary or any other business? You know, like I mentioned, any new business means the city's getting renovated buildings, we're getting sidewalks, we're getting, you know, maybe new fancy signage. But the city also gets a variety of fees. And I'm not sure, sorry, how to use this. So here you go. So I put up here a couple of the city fees, and you know, we're talking about building permit fees. I guarantee you none of the cannabis operations are building without permits, because we have somebody on our site every day. There's no chance. And then, you know, when we do have, you know, these businesses going up, we're also, you know, we're paying other fees. If it's a new build, we're paying impact fees. We're paying for the school district. We're paying, you know, the fire department, and that benefits everyone in the city. And then, of course, more dispensaries, you know, we're also supporting the, any business, we're supporting the other local businesses in town, right? So, you know, while we put up other buildings for cannabis, and, you know, these are just some of the vendors that we use. And then also, you know, specifically with dispensaries, that means more deliveries from out of town, you know, the distributions that are out in other parts of California. So when those guys come to town, they get gas and needles, because if they have a product in their van, they can't cross the bridge. So they're getting gas, and it's too far away to go anywhere else. So they're getting gas and needles. Also, you know, we have people coming in, you know, we're staying in hotels. We're, you know, of course, eating at the local restaurants and waiting for that bakery.
We are too.
Yeah. So on top of that, you know, a new dispensary adds new jobs. So instead of having one very busy dispensary that has a handful of budtender jobs to keep up with the flow of customers, each new dispensary needs its own manager, probably needs an assistant manager, and those are well-paying jobs. This place runs 7 days a week, and they require security. So that's a lot of shifts to fill. So, you know, if we have more dispensaries, it means there's competition for good employees. So I'm going to have to pay my employees a little bit more, and I'm going to have to treat them well, because they have other options. They can go across the street to another dispensary. So if we can raise the wages in Needles, that benefits everyone as well, because, you know, people who work in Needles spend money in Needles, right? We all are, like I said, we're all eating lunch. We're all here. Even the folks that live across the river, they're definitely going to Munchies at lunch break. They're going to the fast food places. Yeah. So, of course, we know that there's, you know, tax, you know, sales tax revenue that we get. And, you know, by the way, those cannabis tax dollar roadwork signs, when those went up, that was really cool. You know, I think in this industry, we kind of are, you know, a lot of people are used to working, you know, in the past, they've worked kind of in the shadows, and it was really cool to be recognized for that. And people were taking pictures, and it was like the main topic of discussion in our, at least on our campus, lasted a week. And I mean, it was really cool. It was like a cool sense of pride that that we really were doing something to help, and that it was recognized. So whoever came up with that idea, I appreciate it. Thank you. So back on the point, a new dispensary has potentially increased the sales tax revenue. Obviously, not just collected by the city, but the taxes collected by the state, and a portion of that comes back to the city as well. And you know, I think it's a good list of benefits up there. Remember, that was all happening under the assumption that there's, you know, unmet demand. So if we imagine the alternative, and we say that the existing dispensaries carry every product that everyone in town wants, and there's not going to be an additional sale if another dispensary opens, what's the impact then? There you go. So I crossed out the sales tax revenue, because if we're not getting any additional sales, we're just moving the sales tax from, you know, collected from one dispensary to another. So after that, there's nothing else to get rid of. Every other benefit up there, we still see if another dispensary comes, even if they're not adding additional sales, even if they're just sharing the customers of the other existing dispensaries. So, you know, so why me and why my dispensary as opposed to any other ones that you'll see in the next, you know, coming months? So just as a reminder, we were trying to get this done months ago. We voluntarily pulled our application. It was to do this dispensary at the old KFC. And we spoke with at the first, we didn't know there was any opposition at the time. When we got in front of Planning Commission, the Fort Mojave Indian Tribe voiced opposition. And certainly we still wanted to move forward with it, but decided the Planning Commission decided to continue it, and we reached out to the tribe, and I had lots of discussions with the tribe. And although the Planning Commission eventually did approve us and sent it to you, we, in the interest of being good neighbors, in the interest of having relationships, we're not trying to force this project on anyone. We went back and spoke with the tribe, and so this new location is the compromise. So it worked for them. They, Chairman, Commissioner, I think it's Chairman Williams, supports this location, and was very, very complimentary that we were willing to work with them, even though we got it pushed through Planning Commission against their will. So I hope that shows that we're committed to being good neighbors and doing right by the city. I also think we have the experience in the industry and in needles as much as if not more than anyone else. I know we were talking about code enforcement, and Bernie is in our place like he is in all the cannabis places fairly regularly. But whenever he has anybody from out of town, he's always bringing them to our existing grow facility, because from, and not that I've seen so many other grows, but I do believe when people tell us, we're kind of one of the gold standards. We're doing it right. We're truly trying to make it. And I know a couple of people have seen it. It's not a bunch of people sitting around smoking pot. It's a hard job, but it's a nice building. It's a serious operation. It's a real business. It's not a game. And we broke ground on that main campus back in October 2016, and our first operation was actually manufacturing in that old KFC building. And by the way, I think you guys approved that CUP in March of 2016. So that's how long we've been doing stuff in the city here. And so, by the way, all the numbers that I came up with, those are numbers we actually paid. So the way I came up with how much it actually, what the city actually gets is by looking at our records. So, $3,500 was actually our building firm permit fee for this 2103 dispensary when we renovated it as a distribution a couple of years ago. Just looking at our stuff, this is, numbers are a little old. I got them last Friday. We've between the taxes, the utility payments, just to the city, we've now paid $2.35 million. And I know when you guys are talking about, just tonight about the other projects, and I heard somebody mention, we've got the roads that we're getting done, but what else do we need? But I think there's a need for other things. So again, this is just me. This isn't the whole cannabis, and there are a lot of other operators in town. So that number goes up. I only have access to my numbers. On top of that, like I said, we support the local businesses. So we've spent $12 million with other local businesses. Some of those, I just put the Needles ones up there. Some of these guys, I'll admit, are across the river because we just didn't have certain trades that were in Needles. But these are just, the 12 million was basically from Barstow to Kingman, and that's it. And then, all the money we spend there comes back too. A lot of it comes back, right? When we pay Robinson, that money gets spent in Needles. When we pay Golden Valley Cable, that money gets spent in Needles. It's not just that we're paying those guys and just supporting local businesses. All that, they all bring their money back here as well. And then the last thing, so we had a payday last Friday. So as of last Friday, our total payroll in Needles passed 8.5 million. I was pretty surprised when I saw that number myself. I don't know how, I didn't get very much of it. I thought I should have gotten more, but yeah. Yeah, right. So, and now to be fair, this is since 2016, and we've had, we just on yesterday, our 200th employee started. Not that we still have 200 currently employed. Some people have come and gone. Again, some people think it's going to be a lot easier job than it really is. But, again, more than anything else, people who are working in Needles are spending money in Needles. And of those 200 employees, 81 are Needles residents. We also brought, I know we're talking about expanding and trying to bring, people into town. So I'm one of 26 people that moved in from out of the area. I know 8 of the people found residence in Needles. The rest of us, ended up across the river, but we brought 26 people into town. We've paid $8.5 million, and that does not include salaries outside in LA. That's just the people at the 3 locations we have in Needles. So, you know, on top of all that, you know, I know the city staff is working hard to grow the city. I think that cannabis today is the best chance we have at continuing to grow the city. It's obviously been successful to grow the city over the last few years, and I think there's still a lot of room to go. And so I think the only other thing that I wanted to mention is, you know, we have one guy here who we didn't count as his, you know, moving out here because he usually stays in the hotel. So he has 200 nights in the Days Inn. So I know you guys get hotel tax from that as well. I don't know what kind of other like VIP status you get from 200 nights in the Days Inn, but if we can cash in those points tonight, we'd be happy to do that. So if you have any questions, I'm open to questions.
Go ahead, Alan.
Matt, on October 19th of this year at the Las Vegas Convention Center, there's going to be MJ Biz. That brings in 20,000 people to that event.
I was there.
Yeah. So when in the future, is there a possibility that we can host it? I mean, we can't support 20,000 people, but there's, you know, and we don't have a convention center here in Needles, but those expos bring in a lot of people, a lot of tourists, and a lot of money into the cities that they come into. Is this something that the marijuana industry here in Needles is willing to entertain or look at in the future?
I think so. I think that it's just a matter of time before
it happen.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before the regulations change to allow tours, like a vineyard tour, or winery tour would be, or distillery tour.
I toured.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in a sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
it was really
it's not what people expect when they walk in there. It's crazy. And we're talking about the grow and the manufacturing, by the way, not the dispensaries, to be clear. But yeah, I think that I know I enjoy giving those tours. I know our employees enjoy giving those tours because, again, it changes people's perspective of it and, you know, gives us pride. We take pride in our work. And so when people hear, oh, you work at the dispensary, or, oh, you work at one of the grows, I think when we actually bring people in there and they see what we really do, they have a lot more respect for it. So I don't think that really. You should see us when we have those suits. Yeah.
Everyone moving around.
Yeah. I think that the grows, the opportunity that Needles has that nowhere else has is you have such a dense population of operations here that it really could be like a tourist destination. And those grows and manufacturing facilities, I'm sure as long as they could, you know, mitigate any contamination concerns, I think they would mostly be happy to open up and have tourists here. And then it becomes a cannabis destination.
I just was wondering because I've seen
Any other questions for the applicant? I'm going to open up for public comment. Thank you, Matt. Is there any public comments?
Yeah, this is Corlisa Bell, 1500 Vines. And the gentleman had a really good presentation. I appreciate it. But, you know, when I think about the city of Needles, just there's a few more companies or petitioners for more cannabis. Like, how much is enough? When do you guys say that's it? I mean, it's just a small town, probably less than 8,000 people. And I can appreciate that people spend money there, but for the most part, there's a lot of money being taken out of the city to other areas. I think the city council really consider what are the goals of this city. I know you're putting out surveys and that's great, but there's a few guys coming after this person that want to put additional cannabis in the city. I mean, how many liquor stores we have? We have 18. How many grocery stores do we have? How many trash cans, public trash cans do we have? I mean, just give some consideration the impact not only to the infrastructure, but to the kids as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Yeah, Sean Grimmonson, 1406 Bailey Avenue, Suite. I won't touch on the capitalism part of it because that's a whole different argument. But I come here to say I wanted to speak on Vice Mayor Padgett's deal about is it consistent with the general plan? Well, twice before we've approved that location and got general plan amendment and stuff. Is commercial facility. It's been here forever. It's went to cannabis. We've approved, cities approved a couple of them for that. So it is consistent with the general plan. Beans, it's been cannabis since 2000, I'm going to guess 17. With that location, when they bought it from the Zanatti family, was probably 16 or 17. So my other thing is, though, the economic development of the city, wins enough too many jobs, we're not getting the $8.5 million from restaurants right now. We're not getting it from anything else. So it does bring good, but my only concern is the existing building. So I'm going to touch on a reference to 101 Spikes Road. That owner had an existing CUP and he brought back for some new CUPs and we held him to a higher standard than that was. So if you go back to Mr. Martinez, can you go back to the picture of, oh, there we go. We require now 20% to be done with aesthetics to the building. So if you go back to the large facility that has a couple murals on it, it's been like that for a while. And right there, that's a great picture. You see the signage hasn't had anything done to it. It still says Active Towing in the present old West Point Auto. So, I mean, I don't know if you like the murals or not, but there was a thing when the property was built next door to when I was on council that on that other side, when you're coming down Needles Highway past the old Chevy, that their portion would have had to be brought up to the same whatever you want to call it, the aesthetics of the building they built. So that hasn't been done. So it's my thing. So back to it, whenever they come before you with the new CUP, now's the chance to go ahead and say, hey, whatever you don't like with the existing facility, you go ahead and upgrade. And then, I think now's the time to maybe address those two things. Other than that, I have no problem with it. It's been approved for cannabis before and moving forward, and capitalism will work itself out. Thank you.
Jared?
Johnson, 1320 Santa Fe Circle. Not for or against marijuana, for not having facilities next to my house and in our neighborhoods. This one I feel is appropriate because it's already an industrial area. There's a lot of grow houses there, and I feel that part of town doesn't affect a lot of the housing. My concern with this building, though, is he has 8 parking spaces. 9. So if he's going to be as busy or busier than he thinks he is, might give consideration to the residents that live on our street and the amount of parking and traffic you're going to get there. There's also a crosswalk directly in front of his facility. So with that amount of traffic coming in and out of there, we already know the nightmare of the healing center. And now we want to put one across the street from it. That intersection is horrible. Yes, we got a light in there. Nobody really pays attention to it. And the amount of traffic in there, that place should really have its own turn lane because it's so bad and backs up so far. This one I'm not concerned with because he's moving from one facility to another. So I don't consider it a new facility in town. But my concern is the traffic impactment of these facilities now where they get a lot of traffic all day, every day. They're lined up at 5 a.m. down there. And traffic is bad down there all the time, coming back and forth from Jack Smith. We try to promote that too. And getting in and out of there is kind of a nightmare. So concern for the safety and the people who live behind him with traffic and dealing with constant people coming and going from there is going to be the concern that I have with these facilities. I went to Blythe to help out work down there. Went down there for probably a month straight and was working. And in their master plan, I was surprised that they do a lot of marijuana down there, but you don't see it anywhere near the city because they said this is an area you just see nothing but warehouses and warehouses and warehouses and warehouses in one part of the outside of the town. And they said this is the place where we approve them to be. We can have as many as we want because it doesn't impact our town. So yeah, they still get a lot of traffic off the 10. They still get a lot of people coming in and out of there, but a lot of it's out of their communities. And they set up an area and said, this is our commercial zone. This is where we're going to permit it. Doesn't get away of the farms, doesn't get away of anything else. So just food for thought. Thank you.
Thanks. Linda?
Linda Kidd, 2238 Paseo del Rey Street, Needles, California. Yeah, I'm here. We discussed this at the Planning Commission, and I think I'm a free market person, been a business owner, and I really just like having the council saying which business can come in and how much good business or what's a good business, what's a bad business. You know, you're in a really good position for this because when we originally did the ordinance, you get every single one of them to come before you. You put a lot of conditions on them. It is difficult in Needles because of the old general plan. You've got commercial, you've got a house next door, and that's going to take many, many years to develop and get around that because you can't tell a homeowner he has to move or you're going to force him out of his house to make that a commercial district. So it's going to take some time to set up like an industrial park or whatever. But at the same time, you know, this was the original plan of these facilities coming in was to clean up Needles. And I know lots of people that have come in and just said too, like we have these beautiful buildings and obviously the money, it is going back into the community. And streets, my street isn't done yet. So I'd like to see a lot more money come in. And I would ask the council to really spend the money carefully. So as much money as possible I think every street in town should be done and that should be your goal. But, you know, Matt's been a good business person. He's, you know, done a good job. And I really would hate to see you limit what's coming in. If there was anything else, then you get to choose, but it's not going to happen for a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I have my hand up. My
Is
name
that-
is Ruth Mr. Lopez, Needles, California.
Go ahead, Ruth.
Thank you. Well, I don't really have an opinion on the specific project. I might have one if I thought about it, but haven't given it much thought. But what I'm hearing is that from everybody, I mean, not everyone, but not the project component, from a number of the people who have been commenting, is that you got a cumulative impact situation here. Your attorney knows what those words mean, and your staff knows from having to do environmental reports and comply with CEQA. But I'm thinking that since you have not, completed the general plan or updated it, that you have not addressed the cumulative impact of these, all the businesses. So to me, you have a legal problem because you're not doing your duty to address the cumulative impact upon the town. Our water supply, when just got that one well now and is